Third time's the charm. Okay. So I get a lot of questions about how to remove stuff from time to time. And I'm fond of adding stuff like birds and tractors and backgrounds and textures to my images. But a lot of times I have to remove some stuff from my images. And there's a lot of reasons you need to remove stuff. Somebody walks into the scene, or you didn't realize that there was a blue recycling bin, on the side of the building that's partially in your image, or you've got serious dust issues on your sensor. And if you have tried removing stuff with Lightroom, you know that Lightroom has a really horrible removal tool when it comes to things like power lines or larger objects, because it wants to copy from another place. And my Lightroom will copy from the worst possible places, and it's very frustrating. So if you are on the Lightroom and Photoshop combination, which most of us are, I know there are a few who are not, but if you're on that combination package, Photoshop comes with your programs. And I do 90% of my work in Lightroom, and I'd say 10% of my work in Photoshop. And generally it's for removing things, cloning things, which is kind of a removal, or for using layers and masks in some way, which you cannot do in Lightroom. But I edit the photo first in Lightroom and do all of my cropping, etc. And because I know removal tools now, I'm not afraid to take a photograph of a church that has a power line running across the front of it. I take the photo knowing that I can deal with that power line later. It won't be an issue. Or I remember once I had my tripod set up in front of somebody else's tripod, and I knew that she could see my camera in the shot, in the landscape shot. We were sitting on rocks behind each other. And I kept saying, do you need me to lower my tripod? She said, no, I'll take care. I can take care of it. It's no problem. Well, I didn't realize, because I was new to photography, that she meant she could remove it in Photoshop later. It wouldn't be an issue. So now I know how to do that. So I'm going to share some of those. And before I get started, there are multiple ways to do everything. And I'm sure there are more detailed and intricate ways to do some of the things I'm going to show you. But I'm going to show you what I know to do. If you have a different way, you're welcome to chime in. But I have selected a few photos that I think are good to show these processes. So I'm going to go ahead and start a screen share. And I'm going to go into Lightroom first. And it's down here. Okay, so first I want to show you this image. Now I want you to study this image. Study the objects that are in this image. It was taken down on the Eastern Shore at a place called Crocheron at an oyster company. All right, you got these memorized? Now look at this image. What's missing?
Can you go back?
A laundry basket, a cooler, a bucket.
Oil.
I think the laundry basket. Oh yeah, the
Oil.
laundry basket's not there.
Gee.
Well,
Okay,
it looks like you
Oil
moved
porter.
the,
so the moral of this story is I didn't use Photoshop or Lightroom or any magic to remove objects. If you can physically move objects and do a little gardening before you take the image, do it. Nobody was around, so I picked up the bottles that were off to the right. I took that crab basket lid and I moved it and put it on top of the green bucket. I took the cooler out of the way and I took the laundry basket out of the way. So make your life easier by cleaning up a scene if you can. I mean, I've left some of the trash that was on the place there, but I do that all the time when I see a great mushroom. If it has a stick across it or it has a a dead leaf next to it. I kind of clean the scene. So don't depend on software to fix the issues. If you can get a better angle, a better composition, a better clean the scene before you take it, that will go a long way to easing your work and your labor later on when you're editing your photos. So that was a trick photo. Now, this photo is one that I like. It's actually the farm that's behind my house. But the things that I don't care for are the house that's behind the barn and all the power lines that are in this shot. So through the magic of software and a painting program, I was able to remove those things and plant some bushes over top of the houses and really made it a better scene, in my opinion. And then I applied a paint program to it as well. But you can see that I moved stuff out first. So here's the original. And here is the painted version with the stuff removed. I'll be going through that image with you in just a few minutes. In this image, this is one that Tori sent me. Tori has fallen in love with what's called the lasso tool. She asked me, how do you use the lasso tool? So she and I did a little work on the computer back and forth. I did a little demonstration with her on Zoom and showed her how to use the lasso tool. And she tried to remove the whole front part of this photo, all the rocks. She wanted to remove that. And this is what she ended up with. So it really screwed it up. So she said she had to laugh when she saw what happened when she tried to remove it and what Photoshop used to replace it. And so some things honestly just can't be removed. And not without a great deal of effort. So I said, in the future, I said, I don't really see anything, because Howard would say, you need a place to stand. The viewer needs a place to stand. So here's your place to stand as the viewer. What I might remove is that angled kind of dark gray post that's emerging out of the rocks there. I would remove that perhaps and leave the rest. But composition is important if you can move yourself around. Don't depend on the lasso tool or removal or the Band-Aid tool to remove some things for you. Let me see where we are. Okay, let me go to this one. Just tell you a little bit about, full screen is what I meant. So somebody usually walks into the scene or there's a pickup truck over here in the lower left-hand corner. The pickup truck can easily be dealt with cropping. A good crop goes a long way in removing stuff, but the people can very easily be removed, unless, of course, it's a family photo and you want to remove your sister-in-law, who's now divorced, from the family out of the middle of the image. That's a lot different. Cut and paste physically. All right, and this one, I took this one recently on our trip to Maine, knowing that I could deal with those power lines. And I'm going to show you touch retouch that will just, you'll be in shock and awe when you see what that app can do. All right, this is one taken down at Color Lake, and that little branch is right in front of the bird. So I'm going to remove a portion of that branch. What needs removing from this image? Okay, we're going to clean. Now I ended up taking a final image, a different angle than this. But I thought this is a great one to use for what needs to be removed from the image. So we're going to remove it and it'll look like you never did all that. Okay, so this is a photo that I tried to get down behind the photo, behind the image. It was all backlit, but there was sky above. So I'm going to fix that. I'm going to get rid of the sky. here is a truck that's fine, but it has a cinder block behind it over on the left side, and that funky little plant that's growing in front of it. So I'm going to do a couple of fixes on that. I'm going to fix this. And this gal, there's a lot wrong with this image, but that pole is just got to go. And when I zoom in on this pole, you can see that, let me see, I can't really zoom. There's this wire that's going down that's the middle of the pole too. So I'm going to get rid of that. All right, so let's go back here and start talking about some of these tools. So I'm going to start with this one. So it's in my demonstration folder, but I'm going to right click, edit it in Photoshop. Now I'm using Photoshop 2021. This is the same process though if you are in Photoshop Elements and edit the copy with Lightroom adjustments. Now, these are the questions. Edit a copy with Lightroom adjustments? Yes. All the cropping that you did and the editing of the light and the opening up the shadows or whatever you did, you want those to carry over with it into Photoshop. So we're just going to go with the top choice here. If this was a TIFF and you had layers in it, you would want to edit original, and that would open all the layers back up again for you. But it's not, it's just a JPEG, so we're going to go here. All right, so hopefully this is going to launch Photoshop. Okay, so here it is. I'm going to hide these controls so that I can see you. You can see it a little bit better here. Okay, so I'm a big fan of speed keys. So I'm going to be using those there's controls that are on your keyboard, and there are single letters that will operate different things within Photoshop. But what I want to do is get rid of these power lines, and I want to get rid of this house. I'm going to be using these tools over here. So this is the lasso tool here, and the lasso tool, you can see you can draw around a subject with the lasso tool. It has different shapes. You can draw a polygonal or a magnetic lasso tool. I just use L for the lasso tool. That's the one I want. I'm also going to be using the spot healing tool, which is this little Band-Aid that has this little half circle on it. So those are and I'm going to be using the clone tool. I'm going to use all three. I'm going to go for it in this particular image. So I'll be explaining these as time goes on here. So first I'm going to zoom in, Command plus plus. If you're on a PC, it's Control. If I hold down the space bar, my cursor turns into a hand, and then I can drag around the image. All right, so I'm going to start with the Band-Aid tool. I call it the Band-Aid tool, but it's the spot healing tool. It has various properties. If you go up here to the top, you can adjust the size of the tool. Right now, the tool is about this size, this circle. All right, you can adjust the hardness. And you can see by looking at this little circle up here, how soft and fuzzy the circle gets or how hard edged the circle gets. I like to use it around 70% or 60%, somewhere in there, to give it some fuzziness on the edges. Sometimes you need it hard edged, like if you're going right down the side of a building and you don't want any fuzziness carrying over. You want it to stay hard. But in this case, I'm going to do about 60% of hardness. So it's a little bit soft. All right. And then I'm going to click away out here just to get rid of that menu. And the way I like to adjust the size of the tool, if it's too small or too big, is I use the bracket key. So the bracket key is next to the P on the keyboard. The left bracket makes things smaller when you tap it. The right bracket key makes things larger when you tap it. So right now, I'm just going to highlight this little house here. And Photoshop uses an amazing algorithm called content aware. And content aware means it's going to fill in with what it sees around it, using its artificial intelligence to do so. That's why on Tori's shot, this shot, it filled in with what it saw around it. Mainly it saw these pilings. And so it filled in with pilings when she took out the rocks. So it got confused by what she wanted to fill in with. So that's why it was kind of a fail on using the lasso tool or any of these other tools using the content aware technology. So I'm back here now. I'm going to slide. I can make it smaller. I'm going to slide along these power lines here. Get rid of some of these power lines. And notice when I'm going vertically, it didn't, I mean, horizontally, it didn't really affect the vertical information. Like it didn't put a hole in the middle of the tree right there. All right, so I'm going to hold the space bar down. I'm not going to do all of this because it would take me a while, but here's another thing that if there's a straight line or a straight portion, it's nice that you can click on one end of the line. It doesn't look like anything happened. And then you hold the shift key down and click this end, and it will force a straight line. And so you don't have to try to draw a straight line. All right, so that's doing a pretty good job taking these little lines out of here. All right, and here's another one, click, shift, click. But I'm going to be getting rid of that house altogether anyway. So let me get rid of this power line over here. Oops, bigger, bigger, bigger. Tap, tap the right bracket key. Okay, there's a power line gone. There's a power line gone. Or a pole. Is there a pole over here? Yeah, a little bit one here. Now there's little tiny lines in here too. And I could really go to town, you know, doing all of that. There's a truck. Ooh, goodbye, truck. Okay, and probably the end of a car right there, because there's a road down there. See, there's the road. All right, so I'm using the spot healing tool just to kind of remove some of these things, and it's doing a good job with content aware to remove stuff. All right, now, an easy way to get rid of this stuff is just to crop it. So I'm going to crop it and just move this over. There goes the truck and the barn and a half a cow. Okay, that's good. Crop it there. That saved a lot of removal time. All right, now, the next thing I'm going to do, I mean, I could continue on all these little power lines, but I think you get the idea. So now I'm going to do, oops, I have no idea what I just did. When you don't know what you just did, you Command Z to undo or Control Z to undo whatever just happened. And it will undo your last step. All right, I'm going to move to the clone tool, which looks like a rubber stamp. Now the clone tool, click. It has a size, again, here it is 30. Here's the properties. Size is 30 pixels. I'm going to come up here and just get a larger size going. So I bring the circle out to see what it looks like. It's kind of fuzzy. I'm going to leave it at about a 50 to 60% fuzziness here, because I don't want hard edges on what I'm cloning. And that looks fine. So I usually come away from the picture, if I can, to get rid of the menu. There must be a better way to get rid of the menu. I'll just click here. All right. Now, the clone stamp tool is going to copy from one section to another. I want to get rid of this house. So the best thing to copy over this house is more trees. So that's what I'm going to do. Now, you've got to be careful when you're using this clone stamp tool, because you can get a lot of repetition going on if you're using too small a sample. You also have to frequently sample what you're copying. So here's how it works. You have to press down your Option key and click where you want to copy from. So it's going to, as soon as I press the Option key down, it's going to show a different symbol. Option, click. Now it's going to take this tree, you can see it moving, and I'm going to start, I'm just moving the mouse around. I'm not doing anything to it yet. I'm just going to start click and see there's a little white cross following it. That
Mhm.
shows you where it's copying from. So now I need to copy from a different location because it was picking up the house. I'm going to click over here, option click. And now I'm going to click over here. That looks pretty good. And then I'm going to get the thing going smaller because I got to get rid of those cars. Option click. And I'm just going to copy in here. And let's just fill in the lawn too. Option click and fill in this with a little bit of lawn in here. Option click, maybe fill in the trees a little bit more. So you have to kind of pick and choose and sample frequently when you're using the clone stamp tool. So now we just look like we have a road going off into the distance over there. All right, I'm going to switch back to the Band-Aid tool and get rid of this little white thing that's here. All right, and maybe this looks like potentially a power line. I don't know, it's probably a tree trunk. So I'm holding the space bar down so that I can kind of roam around. See, do I have any fuzzy birds? Do I have any errant sensor dust up there? Do I have any blue recycle bins? This is a kind of a funky white cow here. It's just the rear end of a cow. So I got rid of the rear end of the cow there. All right, so now I'm going to command minus minus, and I see I have a problem over here. I don't know why I have that problem here. I'm going to come in here and do an okay there. Now my photo is cleaned of power lines, etc. And I used two tools. I used the spot healing tool to remove certain things using content aware. And then I used the clone tool to kind of pick up and repeat portions of the image over other portions of the image. You can also, one thing I forgot to mention in the clone stamp tool, not only can you change the size of your tool and the hardness of the tool, but you can also change the opacity of the tool. So if you just wanted a light layering of something, like a light layering of grass over a bare spot on the lawn, you can change the opacity of the tool as well. So how heavily it lays down your copied subject. All right, so then we save this, save the changes, but we're not going to save the changes. So I can do this top again and don't have to undo all my photos. All right, so we're going to go back down here and we're going to go to this one and right click, edit it in Photoshop. So it should bring this up, and all I'm going to do is get rid of this person walking here. So let's try the Band-Aid tool first. I'll zoom in on this so you can see it. Control or Command plus space bar to make it a hand. Now I'm going to make my tool a little bit larger, and I'm just going to kind of color her in here. And let's see what happens. And it left a little bit of a funky spot here. So I'm going to zoom in some more. And now let me just try going here and see what happens. Ha! No person anymore. Isn't that amazing? She's gone. So now, if you wanted people in there, that's another lesson. I can paste them in, but we're not doing that today. All right, there are no power lines here. No other things I need to, oh, there's this pickup truck.
What about the shadow? It's still there.
Oh, her shadow? Her shadow's not there. She didn't have
The
a
shadow
shadow.
of the person.
Where? All right, I will undo.
A little bit, just a tiny bit of the shadow is there.
All right, let's see. Well, let me do that again. Command plus. You mean over here?
Yep.
Exactly that. Yes.
Okay. All right, that's okay. All right, I'm gonna make my tool harder. So now I can go a nice straight hard line in here. Oh, that's even worse. Command Z. So now I'm going to instead use my clone stamp tool for all of you who want this little tiny line to be gone. So I'm going to option click to copy that part of the parking lot. And I'm going to slide right over here. No more shadow. But we still have this pickup truck over here. Now the pickup truck, if I tried to remove that, I think it would do some funky things. Let me try the lasso tool. I think we're going to get kind of like what Tori got before. And you have to close the circle once you start a circle. And when you have marching ants, you're good to go. So Tori messaged me and she said, I tried the lasso tool and it doesn't do anything. I said, well, you didn't go far enough. Once you have your marching ants around your object to be removed, you need to press delete on your keyboard. Now, there's another way to do it. You can go up to edit, fill, but I just press delete on my keyboard. And up comes this option, fill it with content aware. So it's going to fill it with what it thinks is around it. Let's see what happens. Not bad, Photoshop. Okay,
Mhm.
and then you Command D to undo. That's
Wow.
awesome. Not bad at all. I'm going to Command Z to undo all of that, and Control D gets rid of the marching ants. My first inclination was just crop that sucker out of there, right there, because it's not losing anything in the image to bring it in a little bit closer. So Command minus minus, there you go. Pickup truck's gone and person is gone and teeny weeny shadow is gone. Okay. I love the shadow of the tree on the building though, and that's part of the reason I took that shot. This is in the Smoky Mountains. I forget the name of it, this particular church, the Baptist, something Baptist church. Any questions about that? I'm going to do the lasso tool a lot more.
Cam,
Would
Yes.
you,
oh, go ahead.
would you ever consider, you're doing all of this on the background layer. Would you, when you remove stuff, would you consider creating a separate layer just for that process
Sure,
so that you just separate the two? Yeah.
you can. However, remember I brought this
Mhm.
out of Lightroom and it's going to go back into Lightroom and my original is still there. It just brings the copy because it appends a new name, edit.tiff, to it. So you've got your original next to your, so I don't generally do that, but if I were opening it in Photoshop straight from my files without going through Lightroom first, I would probably make a background, duplicate the background before getting started with this. Yes, that's always good advice.
Mhm.
Doris, did you have a question? Somebody
No.
had a question.
Oh, it's me, Kathy CZ.
Okay.
I was just gonna say that sometimes when I've used the lasso tool and corralled the entire object, it does a squirrely thing like you expected with that pickup truck.
Right.
So then if I go back and just take maybe a third of it or a quarter of it at a time, it
Mhm.
seems to work better.
Okay, yeah, and sometimes you just have to fix whatever it does, and you can use your clone stamp tool to fix whatever it screwed up. So that'll happen. We'll get there.
Yeah, I agree with her. Smaller portions sometimes work a lot better than
Right.
big chunks.
But sometimes you're pleasantly surprised that it does such a good job.
It is a group. They've done wonders with it.
Yes.
It's unbelievable what they've done.
Content aware, it does. Okay, so I'm not going to save that. Don't save. I'm going to close that. So this is one that I'm going to use a different tool on. I'm doing this on the iPad with Touch Retouch, but I just wanted to show you that I wasn't afraid to take this photograph with all these power lines, knowing that I can fix that later. Okay, so now I'm going to use the Band-Aid tool on this one. So this is the Black Crown Night Heron. It's either a female or an immature. I think it's a female, not an immature. So I'm going to right click edit it in Photoshop. Edit with Lightroom adjustments, yes. So I'm gonna Command ++ to zoom in on this. And I'm gonna choose the Band-Aid tool, and I'm gonna make it a fairly hard tool at this point. And right now it's kind of a large size. I don't know if you can see the circle. Let me get it over here on the dark branch. You can see the circle's kind of large. I'm gonna tap the left bracket key to make it a little bit smaller. Right, and I'm gonna start right here and just take out that portion. Wow. Okay, now I'm gonna take this portion out. And I'm working in small batches. And I'm gonna take that out. And now it's gonna maybe do a few little funky things with the other branches that are behind it. So I just have to kind of, mow the grass here a little bit. And that is not bad. It kind of stuck a little something up there. So I come back in with my clone stamp tool, and I'm going to option click right here. And I'm just going to draw some, oops, what am I doing here? 100%. Hardness of 100%. Okay, option click. And then just kind of draw up here a little bit, oops, and make it smaller. That's too hard. Command Z to undo whatever you just did. So the hardness was too hard. You saw it was putting a hard line on there. Option, click, and maybe just come in here and kind of smooth out the front of it. So there, now I took that errant branch away from the face and the chest of this bird. And once you come back out here, nobody can tell that you took anything out. So you'd work in small chunks as you go along, and then maybe have to clean up with a different tool. So I'm not going to save that. If I were saving these, as I said, the copy would go back into Lightroom next to the original, but I don't want to have to, I'm not saving all of these because I want to retain this set of files for a future lesson. All right.
Actually,
yes.
I finally got in.
Okay.
It's not just within Adobe. Nick and Topaz and a variety of other programs do the same thing. So if you go out to edit in these other editing suites from Lightroom, Lightroom will manage bringing that file back in as a copy.
Yes, because it appends a new name to it. So therefore it sees it as a separate brand new file. Yes, thank you. Sometimes it will stack two together though, and you go looking for them and you might have to unstack them to get back to your original. I usually keep things unstacked.
And sometimes it'll save it as a TIFF or something like that. So it changes the.
It usually.
Oh,
is
it definitely changes the file. Yeah, it definitely changes the file type.
Yeah,
but,
TIFF.
But it does put it back in Lightroom. Generally, put it back in Lightroom where you left it.
Right. Sometimes when it doesn't is if you give it a physical new name. Like if I call this one Zinnia, it may not realize it's actually this isn't a Zinnia, it's a Thetonia, but it may not realize that it's the same file. So it could have a little bit of an issue. Anyway, right click and you might have to re-import it. Edit in Photoshop. Edit with Lightroom adjustments. Okay, so this is where that white sky was in there. So I'm just gonna see what happens here with the lasso tool. Instead of trying to clone this green area into the white area, I am going to instead lasso, and L is your quick speed key to activate the lasso tool. I'm just going to start here. Now, I normally am using my Wacom tablet and my pad, but tonight I'm just fingering it here. Then you can come over here. You don't have to follow along the edge. You can go on the outside and come back down here and click in. Instead of trying to follow that hard edge, you can go around the outside. And then you just need to close the loop is the important thing. And now that you have the loop closed, you hit delete on the keyboard And content aware, okay. You can also fill with a pattern, a color, a background, the foreground, black, gray, etc. But just keep it on content aware for this and say, okay. And we'll see what it does. Not bad. Command D. There you go. Now there's this little bit of a line over here I'm not crazy about. So I just come back in here with my other tool and I'll just kind of slide over that. And there it is again. Maybe it's because I got my tool a little too hard. I'm going to make it 50% fuzziness and come back in here again and just kind of futz around, and there it goes. Not bad. All right. So then this could probably bear with a little cropping as well. And then that gets rid of that little leaf that's down there around the, maybe even up to here almost, because of the difference in shadow. So there's a lot of other things that could be done to this image, but it's not bad. I got rid of the white. The reason I didn't want to get rid of the white, I'm going to Command Z to get rid of undo. The reason I didn't want to just crop that out is because I didn't want to get so close. I don't know why the crop is going there. Probably because I still have that going on here. I didn't want to just crop this out because I didn't want to get so close to this top of the image, cropping it so close. So I didn't do that. Cancel. Or okay. Command Z. There we go. Don't save. Okay, don't save. All right. So now let's do the truck. All right. I'm going to zoom in on the truck. This one took a little bit of work. So first, I'm going to edit it in Photoshop. You know, I could have moved the cinder block had I even noticed it was there, but I didn't do that. So get off that tool, the crop tool right now. Although I am going to give it a crop. It's too big. So let's come down here. Let's come up here a little bit. Get rid of half the bush and maybe some of this. Let's go over here. No, too close. And what the heck? Okay. Now I'm going to zoom in. Command +++, space bar, hold it down. Okay. Lasso tool, I think, right here. Get rid of the bush. It's connected. Delete on the keyboard. Content aware. Okay. Do your thing. Pretty good. It's got some kind of funky stuff down here. This fuzzy stuff down here. So that's where I'm going to take my clone stamp tool now. And I'm going to make the clone stamp tool, okay, which is huge. Make the stamp smaller. Just put it in the circle so you can see it. All right. And I'm going to option click some of this gravel and just maybe come down here on the opacity a little bit, put it on here at about 70% opacity and just kind of slide some of this gravel in here. Okay, so that's a little bit better, but you see it does repeat stuff. It starts to repeat. So I'm just going to come in here now and slide across where it repeated, and there. It's not too bad. Even the shadow of it is gone. Okay, now let's get rid of this leaf. Maybe that leaf too, and this white stuff. So you can go on and on and on forever with that thing and end up with a whole new image. All right, now this is a bit more of a problem. So I'm going to try Kathy's suggestion, which was to lasso maybe part of this to kind of get it to do some of the work for me. Delete, see what it does. Not bad. Okay, so now I'm going to clone stamp, Command ++, get really in there. It didn't do a great job, but I'm going to option click and let's paint at 100% some bush over this. Okay, some bush there, some bush there. And now we have gravel down here and maybe my tool is too big. Option click and we'll just paint some gravel along in here. All right, and you can see how we just kind of work it and get in here and remove some of this stuff, and then maybe paint, get the tool smaller, maybe make it 100% hard now because I'm getting up to an edge. Then option click down here and maybe come in here. And then even smaller, smaller, smaller. And watch out where the arrow is because that's where it's copying from. I don't want to copy bumper onto this area. I want to copy gravel. And so option click, and I can just kind of work it. So now the whatever this is up here, I'm going to hit that with the Band-Aid tool, this white stuff. Not bad. I mean, it's not great, but it's not bad. Command minus, minus, minus. You're looking at the truck anyway. You're not looking at how good the bush is covering over the old cinder block because you don't even know it's there now. So that's a combination of the lasso tool and the clone tool and a little bit of the spot healing tool. And that is spot healing. Let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of this white line. So you can just go to town. And whatever these are down here, I don't even know. Okay, done. Any questions about that? Don't save. I know you all want me to get to that horse. I will in just a second. All right, now here is an image that I took at the Dahlia farm the other day, okay? And I already cropped the, did I crop it? Let me see. I'm gonna revert this, I guess. Command Z, Z, Z. Revert. Develop, reset. Okay, there it is, the original photo that I took. So first I'm going to give it a crop. I'm going to crop up to here, maybe keep the tip of this leaf here, crop in here, and crop in here. And what I'm looking at now is how much space I have on the left side of the bud and that leaf. I want to leave some space there, but I've got some stuff that's going to intrude into that margin, but I know I can get rid of that. So I'm going to crop it there. Done. Now, another part of this image that I don't like, and it's another whole lesson, is how this white, it's a post that's back here. What I ended up doing in my final image that I sent to Patty was I took some paint with a paintbrush and I painted this green over top of this white so that all of it was a uniform background. But that's another lesson altogether. So now I have it cropped and it's edited the way I want it as far as the light and the everything else. So I'm going to go edit it in Photoshop. And one of these days it will do it. There we go. Thank you. So I'm going to start out with the Band-Aid tool and just hit this little thing here. Not bad. I'm going to increase the size of the Band-Aid tool. Now there are two Band-Aids, so don't get confused. It's the one that has the little half circle on it. It's right underneath the eyedropper. Okay. There's another one that's called the healing brush tool, which is a different animal. I hardly ever use that one. All right, I'm going to come down here. There's a little leaf at the bottom that you could hardly see. There's a little leaf here too that's kind of on the edge of things. That's fine. Now this guy. So this is my lasso tool. Okay, so I'm going to come here, squirrel around. And remember, you got to complete the circle so you can go all the way out the upside there. And now I've got the marching ants and I press delete. You can feather your selection also. And that might not be a bad idea when you're dealing with a soft background like this, because it might leave a hard edge. We'll see. Sometimes it does, and you need to feather it by a couple of pixels. But I'm going to hit delete on the keyboard, say okay. You can't really tell if it's done a good job until you get rid of the marching ants. So it's Command D or Control D. And I like what it did.
Mhm.
I think it looks pretty good. So now, just a quickie, I did take my paintbrush and at a soft fuzzy brush at an opacity of about 80% or so, I option clicked to pick up my paint color here, and then I did paint in here to try to get rid of that white. So you can see that it is possible to, do some more refinements to this image to get rid of that white post. But that was me being picky. All right, and then up here, now there are some flaws in these petals. So I'm going to command plus, plus, plus to get in there. And I'm going to go smaller, smaller, smaller on my tool by tapping the left bracket key. And I'm going to hit that. And then maybe hit this. And this. All right. And then I could, really go to town getting this thing to be absolutely perfect. But, if this was for a magazine shoot, I probably would really work on getting all of these little flaws out of here. But, it's pretty good. So then you can do what I call mow the lawn. Make sure you don't have any sensor dust in there, which now that I have a mirrorless camera, it seems I have sensor dust all the time. Command plus, I see a spider thing here, and there it goes down there too. So I can make my tool really small, and I can, just do that. And there it goes. And then here it is, and here it is. So mowing the lawn by, really checking all the little edges is helpful too. All right, so that's pretty good. So let me command minus, 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 and there that image, and when I finish the painting, is ready to go. So close, don't save. All right. This girl. Whew. There's a lot wrong with this image. I am not a person photographer in the first place, but I'm going to go here. I'm going to see if I can go here. And I'm going to go here. And now I have severely reduced the size of my image, but I don't care. So now I need to get rid of this pole. So let me right click, edit it in Photoshop.
Hey, Cam, quick question.
Sure.
I noticed, and it may just be for the purposes of this tutorial, but you seem to be creating a custom crop most of the time, as opposed to following, 8x10, 4x6.
I always do. I always do the crop that I feel looks best for the image.
Okay.
If by chance I send an image in for a competition, for example, and it's going to likely need to be printed, such as for the Maryland Federation of Art, I would then crop or recrop the original to a standard size to fit my standard mat and frame. But
Okay.
Since it's just going on Photoshop, or since it's going into a digital exhibit, like the Frederick Camera Click show this year was totally digital, it doesn't matter. I just crop for what I feel is good for the image. So,
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, like I said, that was because I'm a nut for making. I love, and it's because when I was a kid I collected photographs, 8x10 photographs, Hollywood prints, of movie stars and actors and so forth. The 8x10 is just in my brain, and every time you make it tall and skinny, I just kind of cringe.
Yeah. Well, and
that makes sense.
And those of us who use Instagram a lot are used to square. So, you need to do square stuff. So I'm going to use that shift click, and it got rid of the pole. Now it left an odd artifact here, which looks like it came from her dress, but I can just go right over it with the tool again, and that fixed that problem right there. Now I still have a little bit of it's hard to see. That wire coming down next to her head, that was hanging from the top of the pole. So I'm just gonna slide along this and get in here and bam. Now the pole is gone and the wire is gone and it's still a bad photograph, but I wanted to show you that I could get rid of some of the stuff that should never have been in the photo in the first place. You know, the lighting is bad and all that, but I saw her standing on the other side of this opening in the barn. And I said, can you stop a second? And she did, and she looked right at me and I snapped her photo. So it wasn't like I posed her to be in this spot, but it was a good example of stuff that could come out of a photo that doesn't need to be there. So close that image, don't save. Okay, it's time to go to the horse. All right. I think we're going to go to the horse. Yes. All right. So there's a lot wrong with this image. But it's not because the horse, well, the horse did do part of what's wrong with this image, but he had to stand there for a long time. This is an ice cream place up in Grantsville that has terrific ice cream and it's Amish owned. And I think it was the cook who has to, you know, come to work this way, and she ties up this horse and the horse just stands there while she's at work. So obviously we need to remove the power line. So we can use our click, shift, click, click, shift, click, and work in chunks across this image, which is much more laborious than if we opened up this image in the app coming up next. Now it left a little bit of a line there, so I can just kind of slide across that line there and slide across that line there. There's another power line up here, but I'm just going to get rid of it by there. Done. Okay. Make life easy. All right. Now we need to get rid of this stuff. So I'm going to command plus till we get in here. And we are going to clean up. Okay. So I'm going to use the Band-Aid tool first and just come in here and do some selective cleaning of.
Is there a pooper scooper tool?
Yeah, this is it. This is what also Nikhil Bal calls the stick removal tool for waterfalls. So, so then we're gonna just kind of go in here and see what it does. All right, not bad, but we're gonna end up using our, see, it doesn't know where to copy from now because it's getting confused by the stuff that's around it. So come along here to the clone stamp tool. So I've clicked on the clone stamp tool. Right now it's really tiny, so I'm going to bring it up larger. And I'm going to make it be a slightly fuzzy brush, not 100% hardness until I get close to the animal's hoof. So I'm going to make it be fuzzy-ish. All right. And then I'm going to click away, click over here. It's going to give me an objection because I didn't do a source yet. All right. So option, click on this stones, and I'm going to just copy stones in over here. Option, click, and copy in some stones. All right. And then option, click, copy in more stones. So you got to keep an eye on is where your little cross that's following this, because that's where it's copying from. So I'm going to click over here and do some of that, click up here and do some of this. So you get the idea of how we can clean up this image by copying from what's around it. Now you don't want to copy from down here because there's no grass up there. So you want to copy close and you want to frequently sample. So whenever you see the symbol change, it's because I'm holding down the option key and sampling a new area to copy from. All right. And then I'm doing this kind of roughly because I'm going to go back and fix in a minute because I'm getting this kind of a repetition going in here. It's not looking good, but I am fixing the problem. Now I'm going to go over here and make this brush harder. And I'm going to make it smaller. Click. All right. And then smaller. So that I can get in here, option, click, and get nice and next to the hoof. Okay. And then come in here. All right. Now option, click. Let's get up in here and get next to the hoof. I'm guessing that's what the hoof looks like, because he might be standing in the middle of this stuff, but no one's going to be paying attention to this hoof because there's nothing to call attention to it now. I see I have this big kind of line of demarcation here. So I'm going to come here with the clone tool again, make it a little bit bigger, and I'm going to make it soft and fuzzy. And I'm going to bring the opacity down to about 50% or 60%, I guess. All right. Dang on it. So if all else fails, type it in. Okay. And I'm going to option click here and just kind of softly bring in a softer layer and just kind of get that going in there. So now it's still a little funky in here, but it's not bad. So command minus, minus, minus. Now you're not, at least you're not looking at the pile behind, underneath the horse. And you don't even notice that there's maybe a bit of a funky edge around his foot because you're looking at the whole image now. So there it is. I cleaned up the horse's poop and got rid of the big power line that was across there. So there's something in the sky. I'm going to get rid of that too, whatever that was. Okay. Probably sensor dust. Okay. Done. Now, don't save. Any questions before I switch to the iPad? Okay, there's the original. You did a good job on that. All right, let me go get the iPad. Hold on, I had it charging in the kitchen. Okay, I'm going to stop this share so that I can do a different share. Stop the share. And then here, share my screen. Start the broadcast. Okay. So did anybody look up this app or download it tonight? Can you hear me?
Well, I didn't need to
Yes.
download it because I use it all the time.
Right. But I didn't know, I was wondering what the price is now.
I downloaded it this evening. It was $1.99.
That's all? I hope you got the right program or the right one. But
Oh,
it's, yeah, you should have.
I hope so.
I hope so
That's-
too.
At $1.99, I'm not sure. That's a little expensive.
I tell you, apps are amazing and you can afford to try an app and dump it if you don't like it. You're not out much. So the app looks like, now I got to remember, I'm on the iPad now. I keep touching the touchpad on my laptop and expecting it to do something on my iPad. Wrong. So let me go. I have a page that's mostly devoted to my photos. Other apps seem to have crept in here. But it looks like the one
Second row,
second
third from
row,
the left.
the twisted pencil with an X in the middle of it. Okay, so it says retouch, but the real name of it is Touch Retouch. So I'm going to click that app, and before we do anything in an app, it's always a good idea to look around the whole app and see what's there. So view options. I guess I can move that away. Okay, so it's always a good idea to look around and see what's there. So home is in the upper left-hand corner, and home will take you to the home screen of this app. It shows you your latest edits in the upper right-hand corner. Albums will take you to your camera roll or your photos and this is a dual platform app. So it's fine for Samsung and Android and Google products as well. So album, it'll take you to your photos. There are some great tutorials in this. And then info will take you to a lot of information about the app as well. So I'm gonna get rid of that, say done. All right, so I'm gonna open up something from my album. Let's see what these, oh, I can clear the edits. Okay, let's go to the album. And in my albums, it can go to your different albums across the top of the app over here. So I have one here called For Demo. All right, and I'm gonna pick up that church that I talked about before. Continuing with the app features, in the upper portion of the screen next to home, there's a back arrow, which is your undo. There's a right arrow, which is redo. There's a side by side, like a before and after. And then in the upper right-hand corner is your out the door or your save. That's where you hit to save your changes. At the bottom of the screen are your tools: object removal, quick repair, line removal, and clone stamp. So these are all pretty much what we were using in Photoshop, but they're easier to use than in Photoshop. So the most amazing part of this app is line removal. So when I go to line removal, I'm going to click on line removal, and it switches at the bottom to different options. The first one that's green right now at the bottom of the screen, I know it's tiny for you to see, says line remover. The second one says segment remover. And the third one is settings. Let me touch settings briefly. So if your lines are thin, you want it to remove thin lines. You're going to keep thin as your option. So thin is the option there. If we were removing the street line down in the street, that white line, we might need to change it to a medium or a thick line to pick up the line adequately. But I'm going to leave it as thin right now, thin line. And I'm going to just slide my finger across the very top power line. All you have to do is touch a little bit of it and watch what happens. And you don't even have to do it well. So I'm going to just slide my finger. Look, I'm even missing part of the line. Let go. It finds the whole thing and removes it.
Cool.
Let's go to the next one. Bingo. That one's gone. Let's go to the next one. It's gone. It's
Oh, I
just
am in
awesome.
love.
And you pick this one. It's crossing the steeple now. And it only
got
went
a
to the
segment.
middle of the steeple. So we just do the other side of it, gone. And then we do this one, it's gone. And we do this one and it's gone. And we do this one and it's gone. It's just incredible. Now we have issues in the sky, which could either be, I think they're my sensor dust. So I'm going to go now and hit the back arrow at the bottom, not the undo arrow, but at the bottom, there's a back arrow. And I'm going to go to object removal. And you click object removal. And now you just draw with your finger. I'm going to slide it there and you slide it there. I'm going to slide it there. And maybe there's a little bit there. And maybe I'll take that little thing out and that little thing out. All right. And then once you're done picking all your little spaces to get rid of, you just hit go. And it goes. And they're gone. All right. And now just for the sake of showing you the difference in the line thickness, I'm going to go back, hit the back arrow, back to line removal. And I'm going to go to settings and I'm going to hit thick this time. And I'm going to hit that road line just to show you that you can just do a bit of it and bam, it's gone. I just love this app. I mean, it does a better job than Photoshop does. And it's a whole lot less work. Yes.
Hey, Cam, quick question. If you were to use the thick line on a thin line, like the power line, does that like bring in more of the surrounding?
It might leave more of a noticeable replacement. I
Okay.
could do that. I'll do it on another image which has a power line. All right, now there's a little bit. Now to zoom in, you got to do the 2-finger slide, the 2-finger spread on the image. Because if you do a 1-finger spread, it's a 1-finger, it's going to activate something. So you got to do the 2-finger. So I'm sliding in with 2 fingers, and you can see that when I removed that last little bit of power line, it left a little chunk on there. So I'm going to go down here to the segment remover, and try to get rid of it that way. It doesn't seem to do anything, so I'm kind of failing there. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to use the object remover, and I'm going to just slide along there and then say go. And there, that's taken care of. And now I'm going to do the 2-fingered slide to go back. And I think I have a finished church. And I'm very happy with that one. So now I need to save it by going out the door at the top. So I hit the top, and here are your options. So I have it to go to a maximum setting, but you can go hit settings, and you can save it as a JPEG or a PNG or a TIFF or that high efficiency iPhone format, HEIC. You can change the size, so you can make it a smaller, medium. I keep it as giant, and quality 100. Save it as big as you can. What the heck? You know, I'm not saving it as a TIFF though. My new iPhone 13 saves 25 megabyte files in JPEG format, which is awesome. I mean, raw format, it's too much. Okay, anyway, so I'm gonna do that, settings. Okay, now you have options. Save it as a copy, modify the original, open it in something else like Snapseed, or put it on the clipboard. But I'm just gonna modify the original because I don't know why I would want to keep all the originals there. So I'm gonna modify the original. It's gonna ask for permission and say modify. All right, so now it has been saved and the changes are saved to the original photo. All right, so now I'm gonna go home. Oh, I have to hit done. I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna pick up another photo. Okay, so here's another photo that I took of a window downtown. And you see that I cropped it the way I wanted to crop it so that I had kind of even bricks all the way around, but I still have that wire there. So all I can do is go to my line remover. I probably need a medium line remover, and let's see what it does. I just slide my finger along that line, and it did a little bit of a funky thing there. So I'm going to slide up here, and then I'm going to hit that dark area that it left. That's pretty good. I
Joe,
can go back.
you could have easily left that smudge that it left
I
up there
could.
in the corner. You could have left that there, and it, it's just a weather to it. That's very cool.
Sure, I could do that. I can also go in here with my object removal and just hit it like it's an object and say go. And now that smudge is gone. So it's pretty cool what it does.
Nifty.
So I like that. That's a nice tool. So I'm not going to save that. I'm just going to go home, and it doesn't say, hey, you're going to lose these changes. So that's one thing it doesn't do. It doesn't warn you. But anyway, you're forewarned by me. So now I'm going to go here to this one. Now, this was something that had a parked car in front of it. And so I got rid of the parked car by cropping this photo already. But now I want to get rid of the sign. This could be a little tricky. So I'm going to go to object removal first, hit that tool, and I'm just going to do this and this. I don't even know if I have to hit the whole thing well. Anyway, I'm going to do go. All right, now it made some funky errors there, but I'm going to fix those. So now I'm going to go here. I'm still going to use object removal instead of line removal and just slide down here and say go. That it did a pretty good job. Now I gotta look at the left side and try to match the right side to it. So there is a clone stamper here. So I'm gonna go to the clone stamp tool and I'm gonna go to my settings and I want to have this be a hard tool because I want a hard, clean edge on it. And I don't even know what size it is right now because that keeps disappearing. And the opacity, I'm gonna do it at 100%. So now you can see there's the tool there. The hardness of the tool is in the center and the size of the tool is here. Okay, so let's go about there. This is a little bit of guessing at the beginning. So I'm going to take these black bricks here and I'm going to slide. Oh, I want the tool harder. Okay, let's go back, undo. So you undo at the top, undo, settings, hardness, I want it very hard. Okay, so now I'm gonna hit the black brick and I wanna copy the black brick like down here. All right, that looks kind of like what it's doing on the other side. And now I wanna copy the gray area. No, more black, I think, down here. Oops, too big. Undo. So this gets a little tricky, but you can work this out here. Let's go down here and make my size be a lot smaller. Okay, and then I'm going to copy black, hard edge, like down to here to try to mimic that. And then I'm going to copy over here and come down here to try to make it be similar to the other side. So you just fudge it around a little bit and you can eventually get it and get it right. Okay, not bad. Okay, and then I'm gonna get rid of the blue thing that's at the top just because it's out of context and nobody knows why there's a blue thing at the top. So we're gonna get rid of that and say go. So there, that's not bad. I got rid of the sign using an app on my iPad instead of doing it with Content Aware and Photoshop. Granted, I could take this into Photoshop and do it there, but I wanted to show it to you here. So we're going to save it. So we're going to save as a copy this time because I might want to redo it since I didn't do it very well. All right, and then we're going to say done and we're going to go home and we're going to pick out one more and we're going to use the clone stamp tool. All right, so in this tool, I want more hyacinths in the front. I'm going to garden a little bit. So I'm going to do the clone stamp tool and I'm going to go to its settings and I want it to be kind of big and it doesn't have to be very hard. It can be kind of soft because I don't want hard edges on my gardening here. And on the opacity, I do want it to be 100% opacity. So now I just tap here and I'm going to plant some more flowers here and tap this one and plant that one there. And I'm going to put a purple one over here. So you can see that I can repeat some of these things and give it more garden. Or I can put a few more daffodils in here. This is especially nice to do clone stamping when you have a nice green lawn that somebody has a dog who has peed all over it and left brown spots all over the lawn. You want to go through and, you know, replace green on the brown. So anyway, you can fill in with a few extra things there and add a little bit more cheer to this garden.
Cam,
Yes.
what about the upper left-hand corner?
What about it?
See how the sky is completely blown out? Could you move some of those clouds over there?
Oh, let's do that. Good suggestion. Okay, so now we're going to take the clone stamp tool and we're going to make the size be, it is pretty big. It is as big as it can go. All right, so we're going to come over here. And actually, I turned this into a painting, but before I did a painting of it, not a real painting, but I mean a digital painting, I did paint blue, light blue in that area of the painting. So yeah, we can go in here and we can add more.
Looky there.
I added roof. Now, you don't want to get too roofy there, so we can go in here. So anyway, you get the idea. Yes, you can do it. But you need to be better at it than I am right there. Okay, so that's that tool. That is touch retouch, worth every penny. Now, the only
Before-
problem, yes, Kathy?
I was just gonna say, before we go on to another topic, another super great thing about that app is once you've downloaded it, it becomes a choice in your iPhone or iPad editing menu. So if you open a photo on your iPhone and you hit the word edit, then
Oh.
there's 3 little dots in the corner. And it gives you choices of some of your apps to edit in, and Retouch is one of them.
Oh, edit actions? No, maybe I haven't set that up
Mm.
yet. So let me open up a photo,
Yeah,
okay?
just open a photo, hit edit, top right
Oh,
corner,
yeah.
and now see the
it
white
does.
dots.
Oh, those dots.
Yep,
Oh, cool. Thank you.
and there you go.
And I tell people all the time, investigate all the stuff around your app, and I never investigated that. Oh, cool.
Well,
Thank
this
you.
is a really new addition. I think it was the last week or the week before
Oh, well,
update.
there you go. It should have been a little
Yeah.
more obvious. All right.
I
That's
know.
great. So that is an app that is worth every penny. Like I said, touch, retouch. Now, the only issue is once you bring in a photo from your camera and Lightroom or Photoshop out of your computer and into a device, it automatically makes it a 72 DPI image, as opposed to your 240 or your 300 that your camera shoots in, and your photo size is retained, usually in your computer until you choose to change it. So it will become a 72 resolution of 72 if you bring it back into Photoshop, or back into you airdrop it or whatever, or email it to yourself, or somehow transfer it back to your computer. It's now going to be resolution of 72. But honestly, I've never seen any printing issues with that. It's still a large file. It's even grown a little larger in some cases as far as megabytes. It's just 72, which is fine, because honestly, most of our photos we're using on screen now instead of printing them. But if you need to print it, of course, you could set the resolution back to 300. Just don't be surprised if the image size has changed once you take it out to an app. So if you can deal with power lines and stuff in Photoshop, and you need that to stay that size, that resolution, do it in Photoshop. But otherwise, I mean, for screen, for the daily posting that I do, touch, retouch is just, you just can't beat it. I mean, I wasn't even going right on the line. I was crooked or off the line in a lot of cases, and it found that whole line and took it out. It's just, I mean, Marshall and I both use this app a lot, and we just think it outperforms Photoshop when it comes to things like straight lines and power lines. So that's it. I'm done. Let me end this screen share. How do I do that here? Stop screen broadcasting. Okay, so I'm finished.
And
That
I have
was
a
great.
question.
Good. Who has a question? Anne?
Yes.
Okay.
I had just started using an Apple Pencil on my iPad, and I
Mhm.
was wondering if people had better luck using the Apple Pencil on the Photoshop and Lightroom doing the editing as opposed to the normal way with your finger or something.
Well, yes, Marshall uses his Apple Pencil all the time. The thing is, you need to be able to zoom in to get to fine areas. So always do that 2-finger slide to get zoomed in to use your pencil, so that, and doing that will make the size of the pencil smaller as you go. for example, in Snapseed, you know, if you try to do some removal or whatever, or try to do cloning or try to do something in Snapseed, the tool is large. But if you zoom your photo out by doing the spread on it, then the tool gets relative small compared to the size of the image. So you can, that's the way you control the size of it using your Apple Pencil. But I don't use the Apple Pencil so much because, you know, my editing is primarily cropping, changing the light, et cetera, et cetera. And if I need to remove something, I mean, I will, but I still, Photoshop is still my go-to as far as cloning and things like that. I don't use the Photoshop and Lightroom apps on my iPad very much at all. I'm primarily Snapseed and Touch Retouch, and then the editor that's built into the program.
Okay.
Anybody else? I hope somebody learned something tonight.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, without a doubt.
Good.
Yeah. I want to go back now and pull out old pictures and see how I can improve them using all these little tools.
Yeah. Okay. And I have recorded this. So, you know, anything that you need to go back and look at, you can. So I'm a firm believer that if you know it can be done, you can always Google how to do it. But if you don't know that it can be done in the first place, you don't even know what to ask Google for. So it's there if you know how to use it. Like I say, there's other removal tools. There's the patch tool. There's, I don't know, you can use the marquee to create a section. You can add things in with masks. And anyway, there's a lot of stuff we could do still, but this was just a concentration on removal tools. And hopefully you can't remove, like I said, your sister-in-law from a group photo shoot. Like I had a client that asked me to do that. And I said, it's impossible. You're going to leave a hole here. It's going to fill in with somebody else. It's going to fill in with, you know, it's not going to pick up.
Angelina Jolie.
Yeah, I said,
Oh, it's possible. I've done it with other programs.
if they're on an end, it's nice. But if they're right smack dab in the middle.
Is
Yeah.
very good skill that Russians learned in Soviet Union.
I say make a duplicate of the image and cut one out,
definitely,
and
always.
paste it. Paste and use your glue stick and paste somebody else in there. I don't know. Anyway, you can't, there's no substitute for taking the photo well in the first place, finding a good place to stand, waiting for all the people maybe to move or the car to go by, or you know, doing, like I said at the very beginning, some gardening yourself, you know, move the package off the steps of the house and then put the package back. You know, hopefully nobody will notice or accuse you of taking their package. So I know I was photographing Christmas doors downtown. I wasn't about to use Photoshop to move the old newspaper and the leaves and all that. I cleaned the stoop of the house before I took the shot. So save yourself some work by doing it, you know, a little of the work in advance. But it's the things you don't notice, the sensor dust and the bird that flew by that's a blur now that you've got to get rid of, or the blue recycling bin, like I said, that's off to the side, or the flaw that's in the center of that petal. But knowing that you can remove it, don't be afraid of taking the photo now, especially those power lines. Okay, we're good. Thank you for coming tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good advice.
Thanks,
Thank
this
you.
was great.
I'm always willing and able to talk ad nauseum about this stuff. So we'll do this again on another Monday night with a different topic. Okay.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank
All right.
you. Very
Thanks.
informative.
Thanks
Good
a lot.
Bye.
Kim.
Thank you.
Pam,
Bye.
can you hang on a second?
Yeah.
Turn off the recording and I've got something I want to talk to you about.
All right.